So I just want to talk briefly about this article I wrote in Russia Today. So this is my second article. The first one was about Israel's latest butchering of Palestinians. And this article, as you can see the title, Britain has legalized rape, torture, and war crimes by the state. And a lot of people, actually, their reaction when seeing that headline was like, what? No, that can't be true. You know, they think that this is not possible or that this is an exaggeration of sorts. No, it's completely true. So in this article, I talk about three new laws. Two of them have already become laws. And one is on its way through Parliament. So the one that's on its way through Parliament is known as the anti-protest law. So this is why you may have seen a lot of people in Britain right now who are protesting all the time, and they've put together a movement called Kill the Bill, right? They want to kill the bill that is on its way through Parliament. It's the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill. That's the full name of it. And, you know, they're trying basically to give police sweeping powers to shut down a protest, even if it's one person, right? And it has these vague terms in it, like being a nuisance. What does being a nuisance mean? That's something like a parent tells a child or something. You're being a nuisance. So that's the kind of language that's in the bill. And when people tried to ask the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, what does being a nuisance mean? What does too noisy mean, right? They've used these terms like too noisy. She couldn't give an answer, right? Of course. So Boris Johnson's government, they're trying to get this through. And the other two, oh, and by the way, this anti-protest bill, as it's been called, right? The Police Court Sentencing and Crimes Bill, the anti-protest bill, it also allows police to shut down a protest on the spot, right? So they can say, well, we don't think your protest is justified. And we can impose, we meaning the police in this case, can impose a start and a finish time, right? They can tell you, yeah, you can stay here maybe another 5 minutes, but then you have to leave. And if you don't leave, well, guess what? You know what the sentence, you know what the punishments are now? Get ready for this. So they can fine you up to £2,500, right? Which is maybe almost $3,000 US dollars. Do you remember last year in the Black Lives Matter protests? What did the activists do? They went and they pushed this. Here, I have the picture somewhere. They pushed this statue of this slave trader into the Bristol dock. You remember this? And so, you know, that's not even a year ago, right? And if you deface a statue like that, for example, even if it's a white supremacist statue, a slave trader statue, they don't care. The punishment has been increased from 3 months to 10 years. 10 years. So you could get a longer jail sentence for, you know, defacing the statue of a slave trader and a white supremacist than for killing an Iraqi, than for rape even. Can you imagine that? So this is what they're trying to get through Parliament. Okay? The Police Court Sentencing and Crimes Bill. Now the other two that are already law, and what no one has seemed to have paid attention to, this is what is so staggering. This is the crux of the issue. Is that people have rightfully become aware of this horrible anti-protest bill, but almost no one has spoken about these other two that have already become law, right? So what are we talking about? On the one hand, we have the CHIS bill, right? So Covert Human Intelligence Sources Bill. This is also nicknamed the SpyCops bill. Why? Because it gives the police, and not just the police, it gives any undercover agent in the government the right to behave like a spy. You know, for example, it's not just MI5, which is, you know, Britain's intelligence service. For example, the gambling. Well, hold on, I've written them down in the article. Take a look. The Gambling Commission, the Food Standards Agency, if you can believe that, right? Here we go. So the Gambling Commission, the Food Standards Agency, the Home Office, the Ministry of Justice. They're all going to be included. Well, they're already included. Excuse me, it's already a law, right? That's the problem. they're already included in this bill, and they can be given a criminal conduct authorization. What is a criminal conduct authorization? Basically, it's an authorization for them to act like a criminal. It's kind of implied, you know. It says it in the name. Yeah, it should scare you because anyone with some common sense would be scared by that. Why are government employees being given a criminal conduct authorization to conduct themselves as criminals? Such as, you know, I mean, this is unbelievable. This is already law. This is a law. And we've seen in the past, which, you know, this is why people are scared of such a thing, because, I mean, even if there was no precedent for it, you should rightfully be scared by such a thing, that the state suddenly has such sweeping powers, right? In the past, we've seen how the Met, the London Met, the London police, have infiltrated left-wing groups. And the irony here is that they've infiltrated left-wing groups who were protesting against fascist groups, and they've left the fascist groups alone. This is not made up. This has been reported in The Guardian many times, right? You've had decades of operations of police infiltrating activist groups, going after people who are protesting against Israel, against the wars, you know, any sort of leftist or leftist-oriented movements that you can think of, right? And there are women even. There are women who've brought a case forward because they were fooled into relationships. Some of them even had children out of like these fake SpyCops seducing them and then trying to maintain a cover, basically. They even had children. Can you believe this? And so now what they're doing is they're going and expanding this and setting it in stone, right? It's a police state. Yes, that's what it is, right? So when they come and they tell you, oh, look, Syria is a police state, right? And they tell you Venezuela is a police state. What is this? You call this a democracy? You're giving the police the power to rape, and not even the police. It's like I said, it could be the Food Standards Agency. They have a license to rape now. They tried putting an amendment in the House of Lords to remove crimes like rape, torture, murder, and it passed. It passed in the House of Lords, right? And then the bill, it goes back to the Commons, which is the lower chamber of Parliament. They shut it down. They shut down this amendment. They're like, no, we want undercover agents to be able to rape and torture and murder. Can you believe this? And of course, what does Labour do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, you know, I go through all this in the article, and then the other, I love how it's like, so anyway, moving on to the next atrocity. Yeah, it's really like that. The other atrocity that they've managed to make law is the Overseas Operations Bill, right? So this one basically gives police the power, it gives, we're getting our criminals mixed up here. It gives the British troops immunity from war crimes, right? Because as you know, they would never do such a thing, but just in case, right? So that's the case they've been making in Parliament. You've had all these MPs, these members of Parliament, coming in and saying, well, you know, we need to protect our troops. We need to look at this mentality, right? British politicians want to protect British troops from unfounded claims, right? Because as you know, Great Britain is a champion of democracy. Britain never had an empire that spanned 1/4 of the globe and put 1/4 of the world under its enslavement, right? No, that was not Britain. Of course not. Right? Great Britain never commits war crimes and atrocities. Oh, no. Oh, no. Good sir. Good sir. You must have me confused with someone else. Yes. So they want to protect our service members and our service men and service women. Yes, sir, boy. And the reason that this has come about is because you had two investigations that were set up to investigate British troops, right? One of them was Iraq Historics Allegations Team, or IHAT for short. You had Operation Northmore, which is another one. And, you know, the first one being for Iraq and the other one for Afghanistan. And not a single soldier was prosecuted. Can you imagine that? The best part, when they did Operation Northmore, they didn't interview a single Afghan. So this is very interesting to me, how you can conduct an inquiry into war crimes in Afghanistan without interviewing a single Afghan. That's really good, right? Wow. So not a single conviction, not even a single case. No one prosecuted for anything. And this is despite the fact that you've had things in the BBC and Sunday Times. They did actually a pretty good investigation into the SAS. So the SAS, this is the Special Air Service. The Special Air Service is Britain's elite special forces, right? It's actually the first special forces in the world. So they were founded during World War II, right? Back then in World War II, they would paint their jeeps pink. They would go into the desert and they would shoot down these Stukas. You know, they would go into a Luftwaffe bases in North Africa in the middle of the night. White is apparently a great camouflage for jeeps in the desert. So they would go in and they destroy all these German planes with 30 caliber machine guns. You know, that's how it started, right? They're the first special forces in the world. And now what they're doing in 2010, right? 2011, they're going into houses, and of course this is the cases we know about from the Panorama investigation from the BBC and Sunday Times. They were going into houses in the middle of the night and just executing unarmed Afghan men, right? And they were planting weapons on them. Do you remember that skit by Dave Chappelle where he's like, sprinkle some crack, right, on the dead suspect or whatever, right? So they shoot a black person and then they sprinkle crack on them to frame black people, right? So that's the same thing here. They would kill Afghan men in their houses and then plant knives and weapons on them and say, oh, look, we had to kill him, he had a knife. And in the emails, you can see them joking, right? This is the SAS. You can see them joking about how there were more bodies than weapons. It didn't even, one of them is saying, I studied maths, but this doesn't add up. They're joking about it. You have this damning evidence that has come out, and no one is prosecuted for it. Nothing. And same with the Australians, right? They had the Brereton report. You have these Australians in the SAS. They're still serving in the SAS after executing Afghans on video. I mean, this is absolutely astonishing. I mean, it's not surprising, but it's still disgusting. It's revolting. It makes your stomach turn, right? And so they basically decided, yeah, we're going to give British troops immunity now, right? So it's not enough that these investigations led to nothing, that you had damning evidence that they did nothing with, right? It's like a police department in the US investigating itself. Of course, they found no wrongdoing, right? So the British government investigated itself and found no evidence of war crimes. And of course, you had one lawyer who kind of, I talked about this with Al-Mazi, by the way, right? So Mohammed Al-Mazi, we talked about this in an interview. It's on the channel. Go and watch it, right? So we talked about the Kill the Bill protests and so forth, right? And we talked about how this case of, sorry, just going back over here. You know, we talked about the case of Phil Shiner, that's his name. So he's kind of like a disgraced, discredited lawyer because he made false allegations, apparently. And they've used him as a scapegoat to say that, well, look, you know, British troops are under attack. They're bringing false allegations. So clearly, you know, we have to protect our troops because these investigations lead nowhere because we made sure they led nowhere. And there's this one disgraced lawyer. And, you know, clearly people are just out to get British troops and making these false claims. So we're going to pass a law that gives them immunity. So if the crime is older than 5 years, we're not going to investigate it. It's not happening. It's blanket immunity. And by the way, it's not just war crimes, right? It's genocide. It's torture, crimes against humanity. So they really made sure of it, right? So these are two things that have already become law. This Overseas Operations Bill and the SpyCops Bill, or formally it's known as the Covert Human Intelligence Sources. And this is what is a bit alarming to me, is that even among the protests, and I'm not saying this is on purpose, by no means. On the contrary, I'm in full support of them, that they're protesting against this anti-protest law. But even then, a lot of people are not aware of these two atrocities, these two new laws that I just mentioned to you. And so what I said in the article is that it would be good for the protests to expand to include that, because, you know, when Israel was massacring Palestinians again in Gaza in May, they did. You had protests intertwining between Kill the Bill and pro-Palestine, marches. So that was great. That was beautiful. And so I would hope that they would expand. But people really need to understand, like, what is happening. So I really implore you to go watch this interview I did with Al-Mazi. It's on the channel. It's really a good watch. I really implore you to go read his article in Jacobin magazine, by the way. He wrote a good one on, I think he wrote one specifically on the SpyCops bill, right? And I implore you to go read this one that I wrote in RT, which is about all three bills. So it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, it really is. You know, the United Kingdom, they dare to call other people human rights abusers, and you know, they go and invade Iraq, and they crap all over the global south and call everyone else uncivilized. Look at this. This is literally the definition of a police state. When you give undercover agents permission to rape and kill and murder with impunity, how is that not a police state? Can someone explain that to me? No, that's the definition of a police state in a dystopian novel, right? If you went and read, not even in a dystopian novel, it's reality. So just in a dystopia, that's the definition of it. So I want you to remember that the next time the UK opens their mouths, right? Because we already know their hypocrisy from before, we know. But this is just another brick in the wall, right? So there you go. I just wanted to talk a bit about that. You know, just casually mention that the UK is a police state. No, I mean, it's just a continuation, right? But yeah, I hope people become more aware of this. I've been, you know, raising my voice in protest for months now. Before these became law, I was already talking about this, right? About the overseas, about the SpyCops. They weren't law yet. But unfortunately, they made it through because Labor is not in opposition. They're crap. There's no opposition. They're like Democrats in the U.S. They let Republicans do whatever they want, right? They got rid of Corbyn. They got Keir Starmer. They do whatever they want now.